That look crazy?
Little bit.
I'm hella excited about this motherfucking episode.
Why are you so excited about this episode?
I want to talk shit about Tyler Perry.
It is always a fun time. It's always a fun.
I wish we could throw Kenya Barris and Lee Daniels in here, but it's not appropriate.
No, there's no reason to do that today.
I
But if
guess.
anyone is interested, we have a long catalog of episodes
We
where we've
do.
gone to those places.
We do. Oh my gosh, it's episode 6. It's called The Roots of Toxic Masculinity in Black Communities. Sorry. This is That Black Couple. Grab your water. Grab your water, everyone. Take a swig. Hydrate, nigga, hydrate. We have to drink more water, you know?
Yeah. Never enough water.
I keep thinking about when I went to the doctor a couple weeks ago. And she was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I feel great. She was like, good. I was like, can I just say something? She was like, yeah. I was like, listen. I said, no tea, no shade. Listen, y'all be saying like exercise and drink water and stuff. And I heard you before 40. I heard you. I heard what you were saying. But I really started doing it. And wow, it does some things, you know?
Yeah.
Go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week. If you can, make sure it's about 3 times a week. Get at least 30 minutes of cardio in each time. You know what I'm saying? Drink, a good amount of water each day. Think about your body mass. And then all of a sudden you like the pains stop happening in the back and your lower back and stuff. And then like the migraines, they just start to dissipate and your joints don't be popping. Look at that. That's a well-oiled elbow. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, this is a PSA for water.
And for taking care of yourself, yes.
Yes, also. Okay, anyway, have a seat. This is That Black Couple. I'm Jenn.
And I'm Daren.
Before you get started, make sure you follow us on Threads and Instagram at That BLK Couple. Follow us up on Facebook at That Black Couple, and look us up on the internet at www.thatblackcouple.com.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna get a little bit closer to the camera for this one. Okay, let me get all the way in here. If you are listening to this episode, you should be watching this on YouTube.
Why are you using ASMR?
That's just how I'm made. I just have one of those voices. It's like a comforting pillow that you can rest in. That's my voice. And I'm using that to remind all of the listeners out there, we are on YouTube and you should be watching us on YouTube. If you don't like YouTube, if you don't fuck with YouTube, I understand. I got it. You can find us on all of the stream platforms.
Back your ass up off the camera.
So find us where you need to find us.
Sick of you.
I would find, share a video, share a clip, get involved, okay? Back to our regularly scheduled podcast episode.
I want you to know that you make me sick.
I know.
Anyway, like I said, we're talking about toxic masculinity, and even though you just did some wild shit, we're not talking about you.
Nope, not talking about you.
Because you're not toxic. You are a non-toxic man. And we are going to crack the code today to understand how the hell you have done that, okay? Let's talk about it. First things first. Are you ready?
I am more than ready. Let's go.
Who want to start?
You got to start. Because you were so excited. I'm going to just let you just go off into the races for this.
Okay. I'm going to say a list of names, okay? DDG, Offset, Chris Brown, Nick Cannon, Snoop, Tyler Perry. Is this ringing a bell? What's the category?
Category is
Black men. We have to talk, everyone. We have to talk about toxic Black men. And I want to say, this is not to suggest, I have to now say this on the internet at all times. I have to say what I'm not saying when I say what I am saying. I am not saying that only Black men are toxic. I'm not saying that toxic masculinity only exists in Black communities. I'm not saying that Blackness and toxicity are somehow synonymous. So do not come over here with that bullshit, right? What I am saying is patriarchy is a larger structure a larger body and institution. It's a cousin of white supremacy. They live in the same family. They hang on the same tree. Men, people who are identified as male at birth and whose gender alignment is such that as they grow up, they feel that that is the alignment of their identity, often benefit from patriarchy and their proximity to other men, especially white men. Okay? So what that means is that Black men, Latinx men, Asian men, other men of other races and backgrounds, while they may be oppressed, while they may experience disparate treatment at the hands of institutions like schools and employers and the government and hospitals, right? They still benefit from patriarchy and their proximity to other men such that it allows them to harm and oppress gender expansive people, women, and other non-men. Did we catch all that?
That was a lot of words. Those a lot of words. There's a lot of caveats to say that men are trash.
Yes. I can't say it. You can say it, but I can't say it because if I say men are trash, the whole internet finna blow up. Griot gonna be making posts about me, so I have to say all this other shit. But what I want to say is things like Offset, right, coming out and saying something about Cardi B having 3 kids when they're his kids, right? That's toxic masculinity. That's patriarchy, right? His attempt to shame her for having 3 children at her age, that is a part of the Jezebel trope, right? The welfare queen trope, the sapphire trope, right? This woman who can't control her body, can't control her emotions, and also is just essentially a uterus for the purposes of reproduction, right? DDG, who I don't even know who this young man is. I don't know what DDG stands for. I don't know what he does, right? All I know him to be is Chloe Bailey's baby daddy, right? So what is happening in a very public way to the two of them is it seems like some very outlandish behavior on his part related to the parenting of their child. But he's also trying to exploit tropes about Black women to do her harm, suggesting that she is unstable and unwell and shouldn't be able to travel with her own child, right? Keke Palmer has shared, and we don't even know his name, and I don't want you to Google it because I don't want to know what his name is. Don't tell me.
I was going to tell you, but
Don't
if
tell me.
you don't want to do it, that's fine too.
Don't tell me. I would like to keep calling him Keke Palmer's baby daddy, okay? So Keke Palmer's baby daddy, right, who she has had to be like, hey, I don't fuck with him no more, right? Because he was jealous and had issues with her, and it turned into an emotionally abusive situation that she has shared. But there's also people who we've known for many, many years. Chris Brown, who people keep saying, well, that was only one time. He only beat the hell out of Rihanna one time. That's not even true. This man gets arrested in almost every state and country he flies to. This man has had restraining orders from almost every partner that we know of. I mean, he's not a great person, y'all. Stop it, right? Nick Cannon hosted a meet and greet with his own kids for Father's Day. He said, I have 1 hour. All y'all can come over and we can talk.
On Father's
Day. Snoop Dogg, who is what, 60? I don't know, right? Old as hell. Snoop Dogg done been through it. Most people don't even remember him having rape allegations and going through an entire trial when we were young, when we were actually kids, right? But this man has been open in supporting the Trump administration that is actively eradicating safety, freedom, and liberation in any way in this country, period, and abroad and across the world. And when we said, hey, we don't like that Snoop, he said, I don't give a fuck y'all. And they don't get canceled. Tyler Perry. I hate that he's a Virgo. But he's an August Virgo, and they're different.
Yeah, they're different.
And male Virgos are different. So he had the double. But Tyler Perry is now facing allegations of sexual assault. We have been telling folks for years that this man, something was not right. This man continues to make movies. Let's not talk about straw, but let's also talk about straw, right? that make Black women just look unhinged, unwell. We always got to end the movie with either us dying or contracting AIDS and then dying.
Y'all, I'm not talking about Straw today. I'm not doing it. I'm not talking about that movie. I'm not doing it.
And it's just a big yikes for me. And I think what concerns me about it is, yes, there's a deep desire to protect Black men, right? And I understand that. And I empathize with that because I myself have done it, right? There's a shame that many Black folk feel, especially Black women, about not holding Black men down. But we also have to be honest that one of the highest causes of Black women dying in the US right now is intimate partner violence. And what we know is that that violence is committed by Black men. Okay? Right? One of the major issues during the COVID-19 crisis, when folks were being forced to stay in their houses, was that a lot of Black women were finding themselves stuck in dangerous situations with abusive Black men. So multiple things can be and have to be true. We have to talk about Black male toxicity and what it is doing to our communities, what it is doing to our children, and what it is doing to the ways that Black women feel about themselves and their, especially straight Black women, right, who have no choice, right, but to interact with potentially marriageable men, right? We have to have the conversation.
We do. We do need to have this conversation. And coming into this, honestly, I thought a lot about myself. I'm a man.
You
Um,
are. You're a great man.
to be a man. But I will say this, like all my life, I have gotten comments of like, such a great chocolate man. Oh my God. Like, you got the good job, you got the good benefits, you treat women so well, you're so nice and you're so kind. Right? I have literally my whole life. Now, is it deserved? Yes, because all those things are true. They're not lies, right?
You are great. You are great. Yeah.
I work really hard at being a good person, right? Every day. It's important to me.
Yeah.
But what has been confounding for me for my entire life, and you kind of spoke to it a little bit, is like people have characterized me as like the most non-toxic man they've ever met, right? And I get all this valorization, and they're like, where can I get a Daren? I want my Daren. Where's mine? Or is there only one? Do you have a cousin? Do you have a brother? Can I put you in a machine and duplicate you and clone you? Like, how do I get my own? Right? I've heard, like I said, I've heard that stuff my whole entire
Well, I've
life.
heard it too because I've been here for 20 years and I hate that shit.
But at the same time, as you said, no one is canceling these toxic men.
They still sleeping with them. They still dating them.
You want to say
They're
I'm too
still
great? This is what
they're still raising them. They're still raising them.
y'all keeping the bad ones around, and you're not really saying much about how bad they are, to be honest. You're giving them outs, you're giving them excuses. You're saying, but the music is so good, or they're so talented, or but they did that thing that one time, or I grew up on them, or
Niggas is still
whatever.
stepping in the name of love.
How? How?
I have a cousin to this day. I don't think I've spoken to this man in at least a decade because he wanted to defend Bill Cosby. And I looked at him and I said, sir, you are a gay man from the hood. Bill Cosby not checking for you, bro. Like, what are you doing? He was like, what does me being gay have to do with anything? The fact that you don't know. The
Boom.
fact that you don't know. Because they be rocking for these men who would not spit on them if they were on fire. They be rocking for these men who do not give a shit about them. Meanwhile, Black women would do anything for them. And they don't say a mumbling word. Come on now.
But that's what the episode is about today. Is
That's
that
what the episode's
toxicity?
about. Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about it.
Let's do it.
And we're gonna have an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I am.
I'm ready to have the conversation.
Who wants to start?
You know what? I'm gonna let you start. I usually start the conversation. Today, you start the conversation.
Okay. So I have been reading because I love books,
As one does.
as one does. And one of the books that I was taking my time with getting to was The Will to Change by Bell Hooks. This is the book that she adapted s- particularly and especially for men to read, and especially for black men, right? A lot of black men don't fuck with bell hooks because they're ignorant and they believe stuff from the internet. Um, but bell hooks actually really fucked with black men. I don't know why people think she didn't. It's kind of weird. Um, I think it's partly because they don't understand nuance and the fact that you can critique a thing and still love it. Meanwhile, they drag black women all day and still. Anyway, I digress. My point being, Bell Hooks wrote this book, The Will Change. And when I tell you from the first page, it's had me in my feelings. It's really been fucking with me. And the reason why it's been fucking with me is because I can admit that because of my experiences with sexual assault and my history as a survivor and the ways that I've been treated by black men, that I had a deep fear of black men for most of my life. Probably between my um, teenage years all the way through maybe my like mid 30s. So maybe 20 years of my life. I had a deep, and I can call it fear now. Like I can call it a fear, right? Where certain interactions and the ways that folks would interact with my body or speak to me would send me straight into my fight or flight responses. And for me, my fight or flight responses are either flight when it comes to men or fawn, right? And so I would find myself either trying to escape or just trying to be nice, right? So that I could survive the situation, so that I would not be harmed. And Bell Hooks opens up the book, child, and she starts talking about how she learned that same response from her father. She doesn't talk about black men she dated. She doesn't talk about black men that she was, in these kind of more horizontal relationships with, maybe schoolboys or partners. She talks about what it was like being a little girl and having a brother and having her father come in the house and have all this rage and anger toward her because she didn't really align with gender normativity. She talks about these marbles that her brother used to play with, and they were for the boys. The boys got to play with marbles. The girls were supposed to play with dolls. And she really was like, those marbles look lit. Like, and she's like 7. She's like, I just really want to play with some marbles. And she recounts the horror of what happens when one day she decides to go touch these marbles, and how her father walks in and berates her and drags her and like goes off on her. And she doesn't talk a lot about the physical violence in her household yet, and I'm still working through the book, but she has shared in other books that she's written about physical violence against black children. But what stood out to me in the book, this is what's been standing out to me, and this is what's been in my spirit, okay? Is that she talks about how she learned patriarchy in that moment from her father, but how she also learned it from her mother, who was sitting right there watching this happen to her, right? How her mother felt like, I can't say anything, I can't do anything. That's my husband. He gets the big chicken, right? He gets to yell. He gets to have anger. He gets to have rage. Like, he gets to experience these things. He gets to hold those feelings. That's the container he gets to have, but I don't get to have that. And I read Carvel Wallace's book, Another Word for Love, last year. I've recently read, again, I read Kiese Layman's work, both his memoir, Heavy, and his collection of essays. And I also recently read my friend's book. This is Joelle Leon's book, Everything and Nothing at Once. So shout out to this book. This is a really great book. And I've been reading these stories about black men because I don't typically read black men's stories. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, again, as someone who was afraid of black men, I'm like, the last thing I want to do is read what the fuck y'all have to say. But as I'm getting older and as I'm trying to work on my tenderness and also healing, right, I've been able to read these stories. And what I'm reading in these books, right, is just this deep sense of hurt and betrayal from black men, feeling like no one ever saw them as human. No one ever taught them about their feelings. No one ever ask them what hurt them or what made them feel vulnerable or exposed. A lot of what Carvel Wallace, Lehman, and Joel Leone said in their books is that for them, masculinity and the lack of emotion were wrapped up together, right? To be angry was to be a man, but that was the only emotion you were allowed to have. That's exactly what Bell Hooks says. That's exactly what Audre Lorde says in her essay Man Child, which is in Sister Outsider, right? So I'm like, well, these Black feminists have already said this, right? These Black feminists already wrote this. They already said that this is what happens when you raise children differently based on their gender. When you say things like boys will be boys, when you tell boys that they can't cook because that's gay, when you tell boys they can't wear pink because that's a girl color, right? That these things are subtly working to shift how they think of manhood, masculinity, and identity in ways that are actually deeply insidious. And what Audre Lorde says is that it also creates an environment where, because young men don't understand their feelings and their emotions, they don't understand how to use them in ways that are not oppressive. Right? So when they do feel hurt, when they do feel sad, they've not been equipped to hold that. They've only been equipped to hold anger and rage. So what do they do with despair? What do they do with sadness? What do they do with shame? Right? And so when we tell Black men, you're angry, you're angry, you're angry, it's like, well, what did you teach him to be besides that? What
Yeah.
did you, and also for the women, right? Like Bell Hooks' mother sitting there watching, these women who are dating straight Black men, what are you reproducing in those relationships where you believe that the man, he can't cry, he got to work all day, he can't sleep, he got to eat way more food than his body needs. Right? What are you also reproducing in your relationship with these Black men and in your parenting of these Black boys that is telling them that they do not get to have real ownership of their humanity, right? And this is such a, I know this is weird to hear me say because you've never heard me talk about Black men in this way. And it's new for me too, right? It's new for me too. But it's because this episode is about the roots of toxic masculinity in Black communities. It's not about just denigrating Black men for where they are. It's about identifying the sources so we can move beyond it.
Yeah. And it's so interesting the way you said that and the way you framed it. Because as the man of the podcast, I think about how I was raised and how things like that show up in my life and what shaped me and what formed me. And right, like, and I was raised by women, right? I had no dad in the home. My mom in the house. My mom is a Delta, big into her sorority. I was always with some sorority sister somewhere, always with a godmother. Like I was always with women throughout my whole entire childhood. I was raised by women, right? Um, but even now when I think back to like after we started dating and we were together and we were, building the life that we're building, right? Like I had that very particular struggle.
Mm,
Even as someone who I would say was probably a little bit more in touch with feelings and raised in an environment where those things were kind of like okay and not really like, you know, ignored. But like there was a very distinct period of my life where all I felt was rage. Like
mhm,
that was the one note of emotion that I felt. And I went through so many cycles of therapy and working things out to figure out like what is this? Why am I so angry? Why can't I just make the anger go away? Do I need to go punch a punching bag? Do I need to go talk to somebody? Do I need to, journal? What do I need to do? And really what came out of that process for me was, oh, you're not like the singular entity of angry. You have all these other feelings in there that you are just inexperienced with. And the
mm,
only one that you really kind of can get your arms around and understand is anger. And the reason why anger is so easy is because it's so basic. It's like such
mm,
a basic emotion. It's like it's just a fire. It's a roar. right? It doesn't have to have any form. It doesn't have to have any function. It doesn't need to take shape in words in any real way. Like it's just a ball of emotion, right? And so when you're inexperienced with emotions, it's very easy to just dump all of that into the bucket of rage and just say, I'm angry, right? It's very easy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do the work to suss out what is actually going on in there, right? It makes sense to me why we have so many men that are just toxic out in the world. It makes sense to me that we have people that are not doing the work on themselves, right? And then they show up in the world in terrible, nasty ways, right? It should not be shocking to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
That when we raise boys and we raise them to, put put socks on their hands and box each other, right? And we're gonna call that fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we treat girls and boys differently, and we give them all of these societal norms that they need to follow, all these rules, all this, like don't do this, do that. Like bananas are not an okay fruit, but orange, like just like all these weird, nonsensical things. Like we're programming people's brains with this. Like we should not be shocked at the product that we get based upon the production that we've built as a society, right? Um, but I will say I think we're in an intriguing time. I think the Trump era is an intriguing time because we're seeing young people high school age, going into adulthood, right, voting for the first time that are identifying with Trump, which I think
Mm.
a lot of people did not see coming. I think a lot of people thought that we had progressed and done a lot more as a society to move in a different direction. But I think the problem is we have seen a lot of growth. We've seen a lot of people like say it's okay for men to cry. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to go to therapy. It's okay to have a purse. It's okay to have nail polish, right? And those things don't have to mean something else. It could just be I like nail polish, right?
Yeah.
We've done a lot of work on that, but I think there's a whole class of boys and men that are still getting those same lessons and those same messages and not being given the space in youth in their childhood to not have some other outlet other than
Mm-hmm.
rage, other
Mm-hmm.
than anger, other than the false joy of seeing someone else go through pain and anguish and hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And until we figure that out, until we figure out that we need to solve these things early and not later, this will be a cycle that will never, ever, ever go away.
I agree. I agree. And I think it's so interesting hearing you say that because I remember that era of you being angry. And I think, I remember also when you got through it. And I honestly feel like, I think for me as a neurodivergent person who, my cocktail of neurodivergences, I don't know what they are exactly, and I may never know. But I think for me, in my orientation to how you were feeling, I could tell. I'm like, well, you've got stuff happening in there and you just don't know what it is. And so I felt like it was my job, right, to make sure you felt safe to figure out what it was, but also to set healthy boundaries to say, you don't get to abuse me on the way,
Yes.
right? Like, you don't know what it's like to cry. Crying is hard for you. You are feeling like you love me, but you also are like, what the fuck is this? This is crazy. I'm in love with somebody. Like, and that's overwhelming, right? And I'm taller than you, and people are saying things to you about it, and you're like, what am I supposed to do? Like, and I imagine that all those things are very complex. But I also, and this is where I have to indict women, right? And our role in upholding and permitting and promoting patriarchy, right? Because, I have a brother who I would say is about as toxic as they come,
Mhm.
maybe a little bit more. And I look at the women he chooses and the women who choose him. And I'm like, y'all hate each other. Y'all hate each other, right? This is not a woman who is excited about watching you grow. This is not a woman who is invested in you becoming a full human. This is a woman who also sees you as a device for the purpose of making children, as a provider, right? Who does not actually want you to change because that would actually probably remove you from her access, right? Like, And that's the other part where I have to look at women and say, what are the boundaries that you're setting in these relationships? What are the expectations that you have for the men in your life, whether they be sons, nephews, brothers, dads, siblings, right? And then in what ways are we holding Black men accountable to those things, right? Because I don't know why people think that love is unaccountable. I don't know why people think this, right? If you really love Black men, you're going to be hard on them.
Yeah.
That's how it works. If you love anything or anybody, right? People can get this. They'll buy a car. They'll say, I love this car. And what do? You take it in every fucking 6 months. You get a tune up. You over there getting it waxed. You signing the wheels. You getting new wheels. You getting brakes checked. You can figure out all the things that you have to do to make sure your car stays well appointed. But you have a friend and you just sit there as they sit in this pool of toxicity and you like, this is fine. That don't make no sense. And so I think if we really love Black men, right? And I am somebody who can say that I do, right? And even though I have seen Black men as the villain for most of my life, and they were, right? Some of the worst, most ghoulish things that have happened to me have happened because of Black men. And I can still say, as someone who's raising two of them, who's married to one, who has incredible uncles who I wouldn't change for the world, who has a brother and nephews, right? Has Black male friends, right? I love Black men. And if I'm going to be in their lives, if I'm going to have any role in their lives, it's also my job to show up with intention and say, hey, Black man, I actually believe you can show up better than this. I actually believe you can actually be a better version of yourself. I think you owe it to yourself to move differently. And I just don't feel like people are doing that.
I mean, can you really say that you love and you care about someone if you're watching them fail, if you're watching them fall and perform beneath where they should be, if you're watching them not grow and change and become a better person over time, if you see things that they can improve, if you see things that are opportunities for them and you say nothing and you do nothing, can you really say that that is love, right? It should pain you. It should hurt you. There should be a physical ache in your body for you to watch someone that you love be toxic.
Yes.
I
Yes.
know it does for me. Like,
Me
if I
too.
see someone that I love and I care for, I'm like, oh my God, why are
Yes.
you just want to mess up your life,
And to be
right?
clear, we're not just talking about being toxic like the Kanye West toxic. Like I go on the internet and say racist slurs and I treat people bad. We're talking about the other part of Kanye West, which is he's slowly killing himself and others in America, as KSA Lehman would say, right? Like the other side of toxicity is that a lot of men are holding so much inside that they are giving themselves heart attacks and strokes and aneurysms and they're unwell, right? Like dying at 50 and 60 years old from what people are calling natural causes. That's not natural. That's not natural, right? Like that's the other part of this that I think is concerning me is that in this endeavor to be masculine, whatever that is, in this endeavor to hold up these ideals around manhood, right? Men are endorsing a society and a community where they also they don't work in any way to preserve their own life. They're putting their own selves in danger, right? Being a man requires that you abuse women, that you inflict violence on others, that you drink and do drugs and harm your body, that you can't drink nothing with fruit in it because that's gay, that like all of these things. I'm like, at what point do you actually treat your body like it's a delicate balance and machine? Like it's something that you have to actually take care of because that's too feminine, right? Self-care is feminine, right? Like at what point do we acknowledge that masculinity might actually also be a slow death? And not just the toxic kind. I mean all of it, right? Masculinity in its current forms in the US is in particular this idea that you just said Trump and I'm like, yeah, a lot of black men have seen themselves reflected in Trump because they're like, he's strong and he's mean and he's resolute. But what they're also saying is he dominates women and he causes harm in communities and he disrupts society in ways that are violent to people who are trans and queer and disabled and immigrant, right? That I also am showing manhood as something that makes it harder for other oppressed people to live.
Yeah. The thing that I will say, I don't say it's necessarily inherent to masculinity and manhood, but is in toxic masculinity is the non-addressing,
Yeah,
right? It is the I can do all of these things, right? It is the Trump part of the I can be a horrible, terrible person and I don't have to address it. And we're
yeah,
just gonna say it's okay and we're gonna move forward.
yeah,
And because I'm a man, I can do these things.
yeah,
It is the not having to unpack and not be
yeah.
accountable for, right? That sadly is what people are, some men, especially these younger men, are attracted to. The idea of I don't have to feel bad. I
Mm.
don't have to get better. I
Hmm.
don't have to care for somebody else, right? It's the ease of that, the well, I should say the trap of the ease of something like that
Hmm.
that appeals to people, right? And again, if that's what happens, right? That's what happens when you don't instill those things in a child and they grow up in the world, right? Especially in a hetero patriarchal world that really centers men and concepts of masculinity and power and those types of things, right? That's what happens if you don't teach that early. At some point they decide, well, I'm a man, and that's the end,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
I'm a man. That's the answer for anything. I
Right.
don't want to do it. I don't have to do it. I I can do terrible things. I can mistreat myself. I can mistreat others. I can cause a slow death. I can cause a fast death. I can do whatever I want because I'm a man.
Yeah.
And the problem is, if you never get to the point of saying, but why, and actually going deep into that,
Yeah.
there's no healing. There's
Yeah.
no growth.
Yeah.
There's no getting better.
I think about no shade, no tea. I think about our dads.
Yeah.
And, my dad passed away 11 years ago, and it was a horrible way to go. He got sick and never told anyone. He had a stroke, never told us. He just kept it to himself. Didn't want anyone to know. He tried to just he was sick for a long time, never told the truth about it until he got esophageal cancer, which was so aggressive that it was almost impossible for him to really come back from it, but he had already kind of let it go for so long. He had alienated so many people in his life because he had been so unkind and so mean to them for so long. Some of his closest friends in his life he had stopped speaking to. And so when he got sick, it was also people had to come back into his life and see him and he's dying. Even with me, we had an awful relationship my whole life because of how he treated me, and that rage that Bell Hooks talks about, I know that rage. My dad was very abusive toward me, emotionally and physically abusive toward me. And, it was hard having to sit there and watch him pass away, knowing all the violence he had done in my life? And I'm just like, I just think we can do better by black men. I think black men can do better by themselves.
I agree. I mean, you brought up the dads. I feel the same way about my dad. I feel like my dad was raised in a very traditional way, and he was very supported. He was very cared for, but very much kind of taught like coming out of like the civil rights movement as a time period, right? Kind of like a black power, like you are great, you are smart, you are capable, you are powerful, you can do it, right? Which is a dangerous thing to wield if you don't have the emotional part, right? If there's no check on that, right? If there's no check on that, like those things are true, but we're
Also,
not going to allow you to be a terrible person, right? If there's
yeah.
no check on that, like I said, it's a very dangerous thing to wield. And like even today, like I just got to the point where I'm like, I can't talk. This doesn't work because he fundamental and it's a really it is a sad thing. I want to say it's a very sad thing because I can see that he really just does not have
The
it.
tools. Yeah.
Right, he just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Whether he wants to have it and wants to do it and all the things, sadly, at some point becomes irrelevant if you're
Yeah.
incapable. And
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point where I realize he is incapable, and he is old enough at this point and lived a life of being able to do whatever you want, making whatever bad decisions you wanna make, and really, honestly, having not any real consequence to that, to where for me to even think that he would have the ability to change is like, why would I ever think that, right?
And that's
And
what
that's
Bill Hooks says. It's not the ability, right? It's the will.
the will.
It's the will. You have to want it. You have to feel in your own body, in your own gut, this is a thing I need to do. And if you don't have the tools and no one's holding you accountable and everyone's hitting you with that boys will be boys and you doing that whole, I've always been this way, right? The number of times I've heard black men say, I've been like this my whole life. I ain't changing now. Yikes.
And I would argue, right, in my own life, that period of anger that I had was like it was a turning point, right? And it could have gone any number of ways. I could have said, you know what, fuck it. I don't want to go through this. I don't want to have to excavate my feelings and parse these things out. I'm great how I am. And if I had enough people around me that have said, "You know what? You're great. You don't have to change for anything, for
Yeah.
anybody." And if
Yeah.
I didn't have you in my life and wanting to have you and keep you and for you to be healthy and happy and loved and cared and supported by me, I could have gone that way. I could have been that dude. That could have been me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, I had the will and I made the choice to say, "No, I'm going to figure this out."
Yeah.
For my benefit and for everyone else's benefit,
And
but
especially for our children.
and for the children.
Yeah.
But for one me that's like, "Yes, I'm going to figure this out," there's an innumerable amount of people out in the world that are not choosing that,
Yeah.
or don't even have the support or the environment to make that choice, or don't
Yeah.
even know that that is a choice, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we as a people and as a society, especially as Black people, have work to do.
I agree.
Whew, it's heavy.
This is really heavy. I thought we was just gonna be talking shit about Tyler Perry. This got all deep. Let's go to reflection. Let's wrap
Let's
this shit
let's
up.
let's reflect on it. Let's reflect on it.
Come on now. Who gonna
Do you-
start?
what's your reflection?
Well, honestly, this is random, but I want to enter our youngest child into the chat.
Whew, okay. Curveball.
I think he is such a tender child. He is such a tender and sweet and loving child. And I always think back to when we lived in Chicago and he was a student at Montessori. And when we were moving, his teacher said, please, please look out for him. Please take care of him. He's special. He's gentle. And, uh, at the time I was like, bitch, don't tell me my kid. I know my kid, like,
You
I
were a
know
tough
my kid,
out.
But I also think that what she was really saying was that she saw that he was okay with being soft, that he was okay with being timid, that he was okay with being vulnerable. And I do think that of our three children, he is the most in tune with that. Like, that hurts my feelings. I don't like that. And he's always been like that. He's always been very clear about like of all the kids, I mean, he actually cries the most. He cries more than our daughter, he cries more than our oldest son. And I'm thinking about the other day, the revelation he shared, that he may be queer. And I'm sharing it here because I think he's fine with that. I don't think he cares. Um, and we raised him in a household where one of our favorite family TV shows is RuPaul's Drag Race. And we will all watch it together. um, and I think about how we had a conversation about that, and I said, well, why do you think? He said, I think I might be bisexual, and I said, well, why do you think you're bisexual? He said, because I like this boy, and I said, well, have you? I said, you like him like you want to kiss him on the lips, and he said, maybe, and I said, well, have you ever felt that way about a girl? And he said, no. I said, so maybe you're not bisexual, maybe you're gay, and he was like, valid point, right? And he's 11, right? And I appreciate that I'm able to have that conversation with my child and then not be like, oh God, you said gay. Oh, I'm going to die now. "Oh, don't call me gay," right? And I think I say that to say, like, I'm grateful for Audre Lorde, and I'm grateful for Bell Hooks, and I'm grateful for the ways that, you and I have decided to be in community with one another and allowing one another to show up fully in our bodies, including in the ways that you've struggled with toxic masculinity, and you, in my opinion, beat that bitch, right? Like, she was kind of the final boss in our relationship for some time. And you were like, "No, bitch, not today." And I'm really grateful for that because I do think it's made our house so safe so that our son, who is 6'2" and, locks and, can say, "Yeah, I might be gay." And we're all like, "Okay." Right? Like, I just think that that's what we're talking about, right? That you don't have to struggle with showing up in ways that are different or tender or vulnerable or intimate or, we don't have to move from a place of shame, right? Black men don't have to feel shame if we don't shame them. Black men don't have to be afraid of being who they are if we love them despite whatever the hell they think they're not okay with, right? It's not I love you even though, right? It's I just love you. So I don't really care what you do. Sure, you want to dye your hair blue, you want to eat cottage cheese today? I don't give a fuck, right? Like I'm gonna love you, right? And I think that's also in some ways what made you feel safer in our relationship to really explore because I was never gonna let you go. Like, that was never an option. Like, you wasn't I think
You
I
were ready
explicitly
to, you were ready to let me go. There was one day you were ready to let me go.
we broke up for 13 minutes, sir.
13 minutes. Yeah.
Okay,
Those
and I
13
and I
minutes.
and I called you and I said, "Please come over to my apartment. This is stupid. We're never doing this again. So don't even do that." Anyway, I think I explicitly told you, "We're not breaking up. If you ever break up, if I die, Imma haunt you." You stuck with I told my grandmother that, and I said, "Listen, grandma." She presided over the wedding. I said, "Grandma, I'm never leaving this man ever." And she was like, "How you know?" I said, "Listen, if I die, I'm gonna find his house and I'm gonna haunt his house. I don't care." Like, and I was never gonna let you go. And I think in the safety of knowing that, like, this is somebody who is gonna hold me down no matter how I show up. You can be whoever you are, and you don't have to be afraid. And I think a lot of black men, unfortunately, are afraid that if they show up differently, people are not gonna be there anymore.
Yeah. I think that's very true. And on the other hand, I kind of hate it. I kind of hate that in this conversation, we're not even really focusing on the people that are toxic. We're focusing on the people around them, the people that raise them, the people that live with them and support them and allow them to continue to be toxic. Like I kind of even hate that we're actually focusing more on those people. Um, but unfortunately, I feel like that's where the attention needs to be placed, right? Like we can talk about Chris Brown until we are blue in the face.
And have
Chris Brown is going to continue to live a life
and will.
of yachts, of expensive drinks and trips and concerts and wealth and whatever shenanigans he gets up to, right? Unless,
Yeah,
unless the people around him gather him together.
that's right.
Kanye West, which I talked about how you should have a pain. I think we as a people have a collective pain around Kanye West as
We
someone
do.
that we actually love and care for,
We
to
do.
see him going through and being the person that he
We
is,
do.
and to know that we don't have the access to gather him and hold him and support him and get him to a better place.
That's
Right.
right.
And we all know, and I think that's why a lot of people have kind of just stopped talking about Kanye West. We all know, unless that happens, there is no change occurring here.
Listen, and that was so sad. He managed to make us feel tender for Kim Kardashian
Yeah. I
because
thought that
she
would
was trying.
never happen. And we said, damn, feel bad for you, girl.
Right.
Like
Because
that's a lot.
Because there is no healing that healing cannot happen outside of community. There is no healing outside of community. There's no way, right? Because there's no accountability. There's no accountability. You have to heal in community with other people. And so we really want to address toxic masculinity in black communities. We have to focus on the community part. We have to actually be a community. We have to say, "Hey, enough is enough. We want you to be better. We're not going to support you until you're better. We're not going to come to your concerts until you're better. We're not going to hang out with you until you're better. Like, we have to actually hold our own ground. We have to have healthy boundaries. We have to do it, right? And say, no, Tyler Perry, we're not fucking with you until you get right with the community, right? Like, that's what we have to do. It's not until you do that that people show up differently, because you can't show up differently if no one's telling you, hey, this is where I'm seeing a issue.
Yeah. You have to give them the opportunity to rise to the occasion,
That's right.
right? Because unfortunately, we live in a society where a lot of men can be lazy.
That's
They
right.
can be lazy and still get the rewards.
And they'll get yep, they sure
So
will.
what is the incentive? What is the
What is
driver
the
that's gonna make
incentive?
them change?
That's
Because
right.
there's like I said, Chris Brown, he's living a great life. Doing terrible things, living a great life. Why would he change?
Let me give an example.
Let's
Kendrick
hear it.
Lamar and Drake. Kendrick Lamar and Drake. This is, I think, is a great example.
Okay.
Kendrick dragged Drake up and down the internet, up and down the road, up and down the rap streets for what felt like forever. It was more like a year.
It was
But
at least a year.
wow, did he drag him. And has Drake said a peep since? He has not. And I guarantee you he won't. You know why? Because Drake know better. Drake know better now. Drake knows better now. Kendrick laid his ass out. And I want to know why we can't do more of that. Where are the black men to say, Chris Brown, stop this shit? Kanye, stop this shit. Tyler Perry, stop this shit. Where are they? Where are they? And where are the Kendrick Lamar friends? We need more of them.
That's what we need.